Nyla is back with me this morning. We watched Victor Wembanyama shut down the OKC Thunder. Nyla, what do you think of Wemby? Wemby? No? You got nothing? Let's ask your big brother. Dante. Dante, what do you think of Wemby last night?
I think he had a great record-setting game. He had 40-plus points and 20-plus rebounds. And that's my opinion on him.
That's it? That's all. We got to work on you. You can't host this show unless you got to be able to go on for like 15 minutes.
Your practice was much better than that.
That's Mom in the background talking about his practice was much better than that. But that's all right. Dante, Nyla, thank you so much. I got to get on with the show. Welcome to Fearless. I got visitors in from out of town. Dante Love, my adopted son, one of the greatest football players in Ball State history. His entire family's here. That was his oldest child, Dante Jr. And hopefully you remember Nyla from yesterday, although today she looked so beautiful. Not that she didn't look beautiful yesterday, but she looked so beautiful today. We were up all last night watching Victor Wembanyama resurrect the NBA. What a show. What a show Victor Wembanyama put on. What a show the San Antonio Spurs and the OKC Thunder, what a show they put on. What a great moment for the NBA. And so what I'm good at is branding and nicknames and capturing a moment in words. And we haven't seen what we saw last night in 19 years. My math is right. I think it's been 19 years. In 2007, the NBA was reborn under LeBron James's rulership in an Eastern Conference Finals game. I think it was Game 5 against the Detroit Pistons. And LeBron James dropped 48 points on the Detroit Pistons. And yours truly was like, holy cow, this is a seminal moment. This is a transcendent moment. And I started calling that game LeBron James's 48 special. And last night, we saw the resurrection or the next iteration of LeBron James's 48 special against the Detroit Pistons. We saw that last night with Victor Wembanyama, the kid from France, 7'4", someone that I was like, are we going to be able to enjoy Victor Wembanyama the way LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Larry Bird or Magic Johnson? Is he just too tall and gangly? Is he going to be the next Ralph Sampson, injury prone and just really too thin, too tall to be really enjoyable to watch? And he answered that question last night. And I'm calling this Himbyama. He is him. He is the man that has next in the National Basketball Association. Himbyama is the man that just resurrected and made the NBA interesting again. 41 points, 24 rebounds, 3 block shots, played 49 minutes, and was unstoppable. You couldn't take your eyes off of him. He was that compelling, that mesmerizing. It was like watching LeBron drop 48 on the Detroit Pistons and eventually send the Cleveland Cavaliers and a bunch of guys you could never name, think of, a bunch of just extras into the NBA Finals against the San Antonio Spurs. And look, this is just game 1. But I think it's indicative of where the NBA is headed and where Wembanyama just took it. He just snatched. Everybody say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's 2-time MVP. Victor just delegitimized that MVP award because Victor Wembanyama is him. He's the most valuable player in the NBA, and he showed it last night. I'm sorry I screwed up the graphic. The lower third says 42 points. I screwed that up. He scored 41 points, 24 rebounds, takes down the OKC Thunder. The three-pointer that he dropped to extend the game into overtime from 30 feet, Caitlin Clark length. And that seems weird to be comparing a male basketball player to Caitlin Clark, but that's the only thing that makes sense. He is the most exciting thing to happen to basketball since Caitlin Clark and what she did at Iowa. Victor Wembanyama has next. This is his 48 special. This is a pivot for the entire NBA. It is his league now, and it cements that it's an international league. And Cooper Flag will be great. I don't know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's not American, he's from Canada. He'll be great. Nikola Jokic will remain great. But the league is Victor's now. As long as he remains healthy, as long as he's relevant, we've never seen anything like him. That athletic, that tall, that competitive. You could see in the last 3 minutes of regulation, Wembanyama was completely out of gas. Completely. And I started tweeting about hey man, he's out of gas. He played both overtime periods. He played, I believe, virtually the entire fourth quarter, and he never stopped. He did some silly things, but he did some amazing things as well. That version of the NBA last night, I defy anyone to criticize that version of the NBA. If that's what we have to look forward to from Victor Wembanyama and the OKC Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs, that's must-see TV. It doesn't have to be duplicated. The Eastern Conference Finals don't have to be fascinating or as fascinating as what we're seeing in the West for the NBA to be relevant. The only thing that I concern myself with these international players is because we don't know their backgrounds, they're not as relatable. It's like we seem to know virtually everything we need to know about a LeBron James, a Steph Curry. Hey, Steph Curry's daddy is Dale Curry, and he was a three-point shooter, and his mom's and Dale were together since college, and Steph at Davidson created all these memories. LeBron James, we know everything about, he grew up without a dad. His mom had him when he was 16. He's from Akron, Ohio. We know his whole hard knock life story. And Victor Wembanyama, coming from a foreign country, we don't know his background. He's not as relatable as an American-born star. And we'll see if these international players can connect the same way as an American star. But he certainly did last night. He certainly connected last night. I don't have all the background story. I don't know much about Victor Wembanyama. I don't know who his parents are. Are his parents both 7-footers? Is his dad a 7? I don't know anything about Victor Wembanyama. I just know I enjoyed last night, and I was rooting for him. I chose a side. Like SGA, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, what happened mostly, and I'm watching the first half of the game, and SGA is MIA. and Carmelo Anthony comes on at halftime, and he's caping up for SGA. And he's putting all the blame on Chet Holmgren. And they're making excuses for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that kind of bothered me. And so when I went into the second half, that's when my rooting interest really started to swing. And I was like, SGA's having a bad game. They won't talk about it. Wembanyama's having off to a great start. And I was just like, I want SGA to have a bad game, and I want Wembanyama to win this game, and I want Wembanyama. It just dawned on me. I want Wembanyama to rule this era. He's more fascinating, more interesting, easier for me to root for. There's something about OKC that and I should root for them. It's OKC. It's Oklahoma City. It's, the forgotten part of America. And I like the way their team, but there's something I don't like about them, and I can't quite figure it out. It's not the foul baiting, and I know, or maybe it is the foul bait. I don't know. But I'm now team Wembanyama. I'm now team Victor Wembanyama, and I don't see me turning back. I'm going to bring Jay Skapinac and Dre into this conversation. That was a tremendous moment for the NBA. Tremendous. Brought that whole league back to life. We'll see if it's sustainable, but right now I'm fascinated by these NBA playoffs. I'm fascinated by Victor Wembanyama. I'm hopeful for the NBA. We'll bring Steve, Skap, and Dre into this conversation. Before we do that, I want to tell you guys to make sure you hit that 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify. It's important. This helps us grow the show, helps us fight the algorithms. The other thing I want you to do is support and get yourself a Patriot Mobile phone. I've had one now for 4 years. I have zero complaints about it. Patriot Mobile gives you access to all 3 of the major networks. You don't have to sacrifice coverage or anything. But the most important reason to support Patriot Mobile, the most important, is they support us. They support Christian conservative values that keep America strong. Profitable company and organization, but they're in the fight with us. The money that we're spending with Patriot Mobile actually supports our worldview and cause. That's why I love Patriot Mobile. And here's the deal. You get the same quality service. They deliver premium priority access on all 3 major networks. So you get the same or better coverage than you have. Think switching is a hassle. It's not. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. They have a 100% U.S.-based customer support team. You can activate in just minutes. You can speak to someone that actually speaks English. You can still paying off your device. Patriot Mobile offers contracts that buy you out of those devices. This is a defining year. We must work together to save our country. Go to patriotmobile.com/fearless or call 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code FEARLESS for a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/fearless or call 972-PATRIOT and switch today. Live better, longer by using Patriot Mobile. All right. Are we ready is Dre and Skap, are they ready? Yeah. Dre, Skap, Steve, come on in. I think we saw a defining moment last night in the WNBA. It has been resurrected by Victor Wembanyama. Steve, Kim, you say what?
Skill set. But before we get started, you check your text messages. Skap, me and you, we have drawn the ire of Michael Thompson. Okay, Clay's father. He's being driven nuts by the way Jason Whitlock is pronouncing Wemby's full name. Now, I'm just check your text messages. I got proof. So
Wembanyama?
Man,
how should I be pronouncing it?
Skap, is that the right way to do it, guy? Do it again, Jason.
Wembanyama.
Skap?
I say Wembanyama, but I mean, it's you say potato, I say potato. It doesn't sound wrong to me at all what Jason's saying.
It sounds good. Steve, I appreciate the distraction, but because you don't have an iPhone, I have no idea what you texted me. I only get you got an Android, so I didn't get the text. But Victor Wembanyama, or however you pronounce it. I'm Michael Thompson. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong. But Victor Wembanyama, did he just resurrect the NBA?
Well, okay. Jason, you love the flip-flop because in about 3 days, you're going to say the league has no hope. I will say this. He has solidified himself as the foundational piece that the NBA can rely on to not only play at a high level, but to be the type of stable personality and face for the league that would be palatable to, let's say, a David Stern and gentlemen like yourself and I. That's what I believe. Now, the question then becomes the durability. Because remember Ralph Sampson? We grew up in that era. His first 3-4 years, he was excellent. By 1990, he was out of the league. So that is the question. But it was actually refreshing, as much as I don't like the NBA anymore, to see the Twitter timeline actually say, wow, what a game. That was great to see the YouTube channels actually praising playoff basketball. So that's what I will say. The resurrection part, well, you could change your mind on that in about, I'd say, by Thursday.
I could, but I doubt it. Again, you have these moments from Magic Johnson with 42, 15, and 7, where it's like, oh man, this is different. We haven't seen, this is the Magic Bird era. Michael Jordan, 63 points against the Knicks, I believe. It's like, hey, or completely Celtics, my bad. Yeah, Celtics. And then you have LeBron's 48 special against the Detroit Pistons. And yes, barring an injury, I just don't see Wembanyama not remaining the primary story in his rivalry with Jokic, his rivalry with SGA, his disdain for Chet Holmgren, and this performance. I'm just telling you, it was a moment last night that I will not forget. Dre, your thoughts?
Well, the NBA has tried for years to market stars based on personalities, what they say, what they believe in off the court. Wemby seems to be drawing his attention based on the gravity of his actual performance, which gives everybody a breath of fresh air. And what was happening last night is everybody enjoyed the game in general. Even if OKC had won, people enjoyed the game. This is high-level basketball. Wemby obviously playing at a high level. I don't think this series is over. Maybe we'll get to that in the conversation. But Wemby feels inevitable. And I think the last player who felt inevitable was that guy you mentioned, LeBron James. So that's what made this a great moment, at least so far. But we still got a lot of basketball to be played here, even in this series.
Scap?
Jason, look, I'm not prone to hyperbole. In fact, I hate it. And I also hate giving young players any semblance of credit. I want them to go through it, to earn it. I typically and generally always try to find a way to discredit young up-and-coming players. Last night, watching Victor Wembanyama, I felt something that I haven't felt in decades. I felt something like an inevitability, to piggyback off of Dre's comments. I know you hate Kobe.
I don't hate Kobe. Anyway, but go ahead. I don't hate Kobe, but go ahead.
The last time I felt watching a basketball player play that I thought this guy could be better than Michael Jordan. What I'm seeing might be able to eclipse Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant was the last dude I felt like when I watched that. And last night,
let me say this, Cap. You're right. I do hate when you drag Kobe into every conversation, but
LeBron James played after Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was the last player.
And I never felt that way about LeBron James, Dre. I never did. Never at one point ever in my stage of life watching LeBron James, and I've watched every single playoff game he ever played in his career. And I've watched every single playoff game Kobe Bryant ever played in his career. And I never felt the way about LeBron that I did watching Kobe or Michael until last night watching Wembanyama. And while Jokic has been the best player on the planet for 6 years in my estimation, I never felt that about Nikola Jokic. And when you think about the fact that this guy's only 22, yes, I will throw LeBron at 22 when he did the 48 special. Yes, I will put Kobe at 22 in the 2001 playoffs when he was averaging 37 and 6 in the Lakers back-to-back championship run. I'll put Jordan at age 21 as a rookie, averaging 28 points per game already. I'll put Magic at 20 years old as a rookie, winning NBA Finals MVP. That's pretty much it, including Wembanyama now as the youngest, arguably best players in the NBA. What he's doing right now hasn't been seen in like 20 years. If you have to go back to when LeBron did it.
Yeah, 19 years. LeBron James.
Special performance by Wembanyama in a special player.
So you're telling me, Scap, that in 2007, you already had this ridiculous bias against LeBron James that you couldn't see the 48 special against Detroit. Everybody's questioning LeBron James, and he answers that magnificently. That didn't make you think he was the next iteration of Jordan, Magic, Bird. It was only Kobe who was.
Jason, real quick, you don't want me to bring Kobe in, but he is unfortunately intrinsically connected into this conversation. You talk about LeBron's 48 special in 07. Let me take you back to those 2001 playoffs, which you're trying to selectively forget about. Again, I repeat, Kobe at 22 in an NBA where playoff averages were 93 per game that year. He averaged 29 points per game, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He had his own 48 special. In Game 4 on the road in Sacramento in an elimination closeout game for the Lakers, Kobe Bryant had 48 points, 16 rebounds, including a 15-point fourth quarter on 5 of 8 shooting to bring the Lakers back in that game and close out the Kings on the road. A game which prompted Shaquille O'Neal himself to say about Kobe Bryant that he's the best player on the planet. He was the same age as LeBron James was when LeBron had his 48 special in 07. And Kobe demolished the Spurs that year. In 2001, LeBron choked and threw up on himself in 2007 in the finals against the Spurs team. And Kobe was in his peak in 07. He was the best player in 05, 6, 7. Then he went on in 08, 9, and 10 to continue to be the best player. So no, in 2007, when LeBron did that against Detroit, no, I did not sit back and say, oh my goodness, I'm looking at the next Jordan. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the best player in the NBA. Because the next Jordan and the best player in the NBA was smack dab in his square of his prime in 2007. His name was Kobe Bean Bryant.
Not
Jason.
quite. It's not quite, because Kobe Bryant, first of all, had Shaquille O'Neal on his team, who drew a certain amount of gravity to him that gave Kobe the space to do what he did. Kobe was amazing in 2001. And I'm from Philadelphia. I used to argue Kobe against Iverson. And then he went and had 45 in game 1 against the Spurs, which I thought you would mention. Kobe was amazing. At the same time, with Shaquille O'Neal on your team, it's not an equal apples to apples comparison. And LeBron James won MVP 4 out of 5 years. Would have been 5 in a row if it wasn't for the robbery where they gave it to Derrick Rose. We can't, and I never thought LeBron was the next Jordan, but the guy for an entire generation was absolutely LeBron James. I can still say that, even though I don't put him above Jordan. Kobe had a small run, but he didn't have that gravity over the league the way that LeBron did for a much longer period.
What about the fact that LeBron James had to go to a top 3 players team in Dwayne Wade and recruit a top 15 player?
We got it. That's 2010, 2011. We got it.
That?
We're talking about 2007.
He didn't win.
Jason,
He didn't have the pieces, Scap.
Jason,
He didn't have Shaq.
His team was very similar to Kobe's team in 07, 08, 9, and 10. His team was very similar. He couldn't get over the hump.
Scap, to your point, I'd go even further with Kobe. It wasn't even 2001. Game 4, 2000 NBA Finals. Shaq fouls out in the first minute at Conseco Fieldhouse, going over the back, one of the dumbest fouls I've ever seen. And the Lakers look dead in the water. All of a sudden, looks like it's going to be a 2-2 series in a 2-3-2 format. As a Laker fan at that point, I said, we might be going 7 games here. Kobe Bryant in those last 4.5 minutes in that overtime, and I was not a believer in Kobe to anyone, because I loved Eddie Jones. I hated when he got traded. I thought Kobe was just this flashy young ball hog. I really did. I'll come clean on it. What he did in those 4.5 minutes, hitting like 4 shots, those pull-ups, I said, this guy is pretty special. Also, I think Dre brought this up. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, San Antonio was actually the best team in the league. Most people thought they were going to beat the Lakers. In Game 1, and I still believe they're at the Alamo Dome, the way Kobe Bryant attacked the Admiral and Duncan, I've never seen anything like it. And that's the game that Shaq came out, and they did not get along that season. Shaq actually gets to the press conference and says, Kobe, that's my idol. And he meant it. People thought he was kidding. No, he actually had some awe in his voice. So again, this whole notion that Kobe had a run of 2-3 years of being the best player, I think it's a little longer than that, Drake, because I don't believe the Lakers get out of the West at least one time during that original three-peat without the Bean out on the perimeter and the wing.
He
I agree with
averaged in
that.
that series against the Spurs, he averaged 33, 7, and 7. He was the best player
He
on the
was great in
floor,
that series.
Duncan and Shaq included, at 22 years of age. It was, and look, Dre, in 07 against the Spurs in the finals, LeBron averaged 23 points per game on 35% shooting and had more turnovers than everyone on his team combined in a 4-0 sweep where the Spurs were held to 87 points per game by the Cavs' number 3 net rated defense in the league that year. You put Kobe Bryant in those clutch moments, in those fourth quarters, they ain't getting swept. They might win the series. So no, I stand firmly behind this. Never in my life did I look at LeBron James and say, Jordan. I did when I watched Kobe, and I did last night watching Wembanyama.
Jay Skapinac, if you put Kobe Bryant on that Cavaliers team, they're not in the finals. LeBron
Disagree,
James is the
totally.
reason why they even made the finals. Kobe
Dre,
did not have the
they
type of
didn't beat a
gravitational
team
pull
over
on a team
500 till the
that
East
LeBron
Finals,
James did.
Dre.
Look what Kobe did when Shaq left
beat
before
the
they got Pau
Wizards and the
Gasol.
Nets in the first 2 rounds. They were both 41 and 41 that year. They then
Yes.
played the Detroit Pistons, who did not have their defensive anchor in Ben Wallace. They were a 54-win team. The Cavs were a 52-win team that year. They were both elite top 4 net-rated defenses. All LeBron had to do was manage and win in winning time. He did it against the Pistons. He choked and failed against the Spurs. Kobe Bryant
He didn't choke. The Spurs were just a better
would have
team
went
than
to
them.
the finals.
The Spurs are the team that
would have
the
been in the finals
Spurs,
against
the Spurs put the Lakers dynasty to an end. That same Spurs team that swept LeBron. They were just a better team than the Cavs. The Cavs lucked into the finals that year.
I was at those NBA finals. The Spurs were better than the Cleveland Cavaliers. I covered every one of those
The
games.
Lakers played that same Spurs team the next year in the Western Conference Finals in 2008, the defending Spurs team that beat LeBron the year before. Pau Gasol, the number 2 option who was traded at midseason to the Lakers, averaged 13 points per game in that series on 44% shooting. The Lakers beat them in 5 games 4-1 because Kobe Bryant was unstoppable.
I agree. Yeah. Kobe was great. I'm a Kobe fan. Let's be clear, but let's not act like Kobe has the same type of geometrical advantage on a basketball court. He doesn't create that what LeBron James creates, and we can't even debate that. Kobe was a great scorer, great overall player. He has a great emotional pull on his fans, obviously, as we can see. LeBron James changes the geometry of a basketball game in a way that Kobe never did. You could not put Kobe on LeBron's team and get the same outcomes. You could not do that.
Jay, I gotta stop you. Jay. I see.
Won
Jay,
more
I gotta
against
stop
harder
you.
competition with less.
Jay.
What kind of geometry are you talking about, Dre?
We gotta mute Jay. We gotta mute Jay.
Championships against harder competition with less.
We have to mute
cast.
Jay.
Is
Can
that
we
the
not mute
geometry?
Jay? Can we not mute him? Jay, stop it. I want to talk about Wembanyama. And this is my problem with the cult of Kobe. He stops everything. And
My turn.
I don't. Yeah, the culture, it stops everything. Victor Wembanyama, the entire league just pivoted and changed direction, far more compelling. They got something to build on. Wembanyama's likable. He doesn't carry all this bag. And what we saw last night, and Dre, I'm going to pick up on your point, and I don't know how to frame this question so that Scap can't relate it to Kobe or Nikola Jokic, but I'll try. Dre, I think this series is over. I think going into OKC and beating them in game 1, it confirms to me what we saw in the regular season. San Antonio has OKC's number. They did this last night without De'Aaron Fox. And I don't know if De'Aaron Fox is going to be back or available, but I think we need to quit kidding ourselves. San Antonio is better than OKC. Now, could Wembanyama get injured? He played 49 minutes last night. Who knows he does seem a little injury prone. He's thin. But, Dre, I think you're in some denial if you can't say at this point, San Antonio, because they controlled that game from pretty much start to finish last night. They're better than OKC. Dre, tell me why not.
They've shown themselves to have their number this season. They beat them, 4 times or 5 times? They played them in the play-in as well.
Yeah.
Right. And OKC didn't have all their players for all of those games. And yes, hopefully Wemby doesn't get hurt. We want to see all the best players playing. OKC still, with all that, it was still a double overtime game that came down to a couple of shots. Between SGA and Jalen Williams, they were combined, I believe it was 18 for 48. That's not going to repeat. OKC missed a lot of basics. There was a lot of box outs that they missed on Wemby. He had a lot of tip-ins around the rim. A lot of times they weren't putting a body on him, and the Spurs go hot and cold from three. So if they put bodies on Wemby in the paint so that he can't just dominate them at the rim like that and force San Antonio's perimeter guys to actually make shots, San Antonio doesn't always make those shots. And I think that is an adjustment OKC can make, because that's not a talent adjustment. That's a strategy adjustment, and people just executing the way that they're supposed to. And OKC did have the most wins in the league, and they do have the MVP, who did not have a great game last night. This series is not over yet. I do believe the Spurs can win, but I wouldn't put a bow on this.
Okay. Who do you think is going to win this series?
After game one, if I had to bet money, I'd bet on San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not a betting man.
You think what I think is what you just said. And again, it may go 7, and most likely it will go 7. But I like San Antonio. They've won 5 of 6 times they played them this season. It's Scap. Am I crazy here?
Jason, you're not crazy at all. Crazy like a fox, because yes, when you see a team play another team 6 times and they win 5 of them, yes, there is a schematic issue with that matchup. I think the matchup is just not good for Oklahoma City, and it's not Wembanyama. It begins and ends with him primarily, but the guards, the bigger, young, physical, athletic guards that the Spurs can throw at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it does bother him. Like, Stephon Castle is bigger, stronger, more athletic than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and it obviously bothers him. He has to work and fight to get free from that, and when he does, there's this guy who at his apex has like an 11-foot reach that's jumping up and contesting the shot when Shai does, when and if he gets by. So it's just a difficult matchup, because when Shai is affected offensively, it really throws Oklahoma City off as a team. And he has been impacted by and large through all of these matchups, including last night. He will be better throughout the series. I expect him to be, but he better be much better. He was 7 of 23 last night, 24 points, a game worst -15, game worst. So they were in double overtime in spite of him. They got blown out when he was on the floor. Meanwhile, Victor Wembanyama +16, game best. This whole series will come down to how good the Spurs can be in Wemby's off minutes, or how many minutes can Wemby play effectively without taking rests. Because when he's on the floor, they're better, period. And they should win this series.
Let me make another point of why I think San Antonio's victory was even more impressive than I'm trying to convey. 21 turnovers for the Spurs. Credit to OKC's defense. Credit to them. They are handsy. They're great defense. Stephen Castle, their point guard last night, 11 turnovers, and they still beat you. They still control the game. OKC had 14 turnovers. That's a 7-possession advantage, and they still beat you. Again, if the Spurs just clean up a little bit of that, get it down to 18, 17 turnovers, I just think San Antonio, 5 of 6, win this game despite all the dumb things. Why did Wembanyama put his head down and roll? Wasn't it Caruso or whatever in a critical moment at the end? What is he doing? Then he does great things. Steve, I don't know if I want you to react to whether the series is over or not. I don't think that plays to your strength. But any reaction to what we've been talking about?
No, I mean, Wembanyama could be, I brought this up earlier this morning with JB. If they win, let's say Wembanyama is the best player throughout the rest of this playoffs. Is he now clearly the face of the league and the number one player? Regardless. Okay. So going back to the earlier part of our conversation, greatness is usually established early on. Everyone that Scap listed off at early 20s or even teenage years. So we know the greatness. Legendary status now relies on durability and longevity, because it got me thinking, a little bit before our time as sports fans, when we could really recognize what was going on, Jason, there was a guy by the name of Bill Walton. Bill Walton in 1977 was going to be the best player in the league for 10 years. He was actually really, I won't say dominating Kareem, but in that playoff series that year, Kareem was not in his league. And if you talk to anyone that really knows basketball, they will tell you that Bill Walton was the most fundamentally sound big man of all time. You could write a handbook on what he did. Problem was, he had bad feet, and he was never really the same. So that is the question. We talk about Ralph Sampson. I now actually harken back to Bill Walton, because that was greatness that was denied, or legendary status.
Since you brought it up, just for my entertainment value, what was JB's take on all of this?
Well, I don't think he thinks Wemby is now a bust. He was calling him a bust after his first Summer League game. I do think JB has actually said that he's probably not bad. But he's a hard man. He's a hard man, though, JB. You know this, Whitlock. He's a stubborn guy.
Yeah, he texted me last night that, what's good now is called great. And so I hear you, Whitlock, how excited you are about this game last night. But it was really just good. It's not great. And I'm just like, JB, I can't. I got to go to bed.
Jason.
I can't do it. Go ahead, Scott.
Jason, real quick. I just want to add this real quick point. This is the 7th time in NBA history. I don't know if you guys saw this. The 7th time that a series will match up 2 60-win teams. It's the first time since 1998, the NBA Finals with the Bulls and the Jazz, obviously. It actually happened in the 98, 97, and 96 finals. Those were the last times that this happened. Then you got to go back to 85, I think, Sixers and Celtics to find the last time it happened. So this is a special historical series, and it just started like that in game one. Jason, you're not over hyping this at all. All right, whatever JB said. You are absolutely right on to be as excited about this game as you are right now.
I think the NBA, my last point, Dre, and then we're going to move on. My last point, Dre, is the NBA would prefer Wembanyama to take over this league and to win this series. And that's probably the other reason why I'm confident San Antonio is going to win this. Wembanyama is far more box office than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
I agree. I mean, he's an alien. Physically, we haven't seen anything like this. He's international. Obviously, Shai is as well, but he didn't even play college ball in the United States. And he's, for the most part, when it comes to anything that's not basketball related, kept his mouth shut. And I think the NBA would prefer he keeps it that way, especially if they win the championship.
I got one other thought that I will throw out to Scap or Steve. The other thing I was thinking last night is the biggest attraction in the NBA always ends up in a Lakers uniform, from Wilt Chamberlain to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to Shaquille O'Neal to LeBron, the pint-size version of all those guys. In any way, and again, I don't know when it happens, that Wembanyama ends up in a Lakers uniform. This is how the gravity of the league forces whatever the biggest attraction is to Los Angeles.
I say no for several reasons. 2 reasons primarily, not several, 2. One is the Spurs are an insanely well-run organization. They've drafted everything right. They've made all the right decisions in terms of their free agent acquisitions. They will do everything they can in their power to supply him with everything he needs to win as many championships as he possibly can. That's one. Secondarily, these foreign guys, Jason, are cut differently. They are more loyal than American players. Look at Nikola Jokic, will never leave Denver. Akeem Olajuwon overstayed his welcome in Houston until at the very end he left to go to Toronto, mainly because Houston didn't really want him anymore. Dirk Nowitzki, 20-year guy in Dallas. Even look, Duncan is the Virgin Islands, whatever, American, I guess, but still, Duncan stayed his whole career in San Antonio. Giannis has overstayed his welcome. He's finally out, but it's taken 13 years for him to get himself out of Milwaukee. And that's because they're bad run organizations like Milwaukee. The Spurs aren't. So with all of that factored in, I don't see any way Victor Wembanyama isn't a San Antonio Spur for life.
Steve, you got something there?
I get the sense, going through Duncan's career, I never once really heard or recall of Duncan wanting to leave or any whispers, any rumors or innuendo that he was going to be moved off or that he wanted to seek greener, more, I would say, prosperous, brighter lights. I get the sense that this young man is Duncan 2.0.
Duncan flirted with Orlando that same year with T-Mac, but they didn't get him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. All right. Let me put a pin in that because I want to return to our track conversation. Scap, I'm going to let you go. And do we need to take a break or is Shamika ready to go? Let's take a break. We'll take a break. When we come back, Shamika, we're going to return to the North Carolina track conversation. Nyan Brown put out a brilliant statement. I'm not sure if I buy it, but it's a brilliant statement. We'll talk about that when we come back. I had a nightmare last night that they made a movie about my love affair with Caitlin Clark.
What?
And the name of that movie was A Star is Dying. Why do I say that? Yesterday, or at some point this week, a guy named Tyrone Johnson that works with Craig Carton on the Craig Carton podcast compared Caitlin Clark to Jeremy Lin and Lin Sanity.
We look back on Caitlin Clark, and we're not going to look back on her like she's Michael Jordan. She's Jeremy Lin. This is just Lin Sanity. She's going to fumble this.
You remember the Asian kid that went on a scoring spree for the New York Knicks and had the league on fire? I really remember Jeremy Lin because it nearly cost me my job at Fox Sports. Does anybody remember when I cracked that joke about Jeremy Lin and Asian women feeling a couple of inches of pain? Yeah, remember, that was me. Almost cost me my job. I think Tyrone Johnson's going too far comparing Caitlin Clark to Jeremy Lin. She's not a flash in the pan. What she did at Iowa will never be duplicated and repeated, taking them to 2 straight national title games. And her rookie year in the WNBA was magnificent. There was a 3-4 year stretch when Caitlin Clark was the center of the women's basketball universe and the center of the basketball universe. She's not Jeremy Lin, but she is a star that is dying.
Our religion, our regrets, and our decisions. We all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, I want to reset, and I'm sorry, but I hope we have the video from yesterday just so I can get everybody up to speed on what happened in North Carolina. Nyan Brown, 18-year-old kid in North Carolina, his high school, Mallard Creek, is about to win the state championship in the track and field. He's anchoring the 4x400 relay team, and if they win the 4x400 relay, I believe they win their 3rd consecutive state championship at Mallard Creek. They got some pretty harsh rules trying to prevent athletes from showboating and taunting others, and he had been warned, they say, and he does his little hand deal here at the end, and that gets him disqualified and gets their 4x400 relay team disqualified, cost them a state championship, and now it's a big controversy. You got professional athletes chiming in, you got his coach and people in the media, everybody's chiming in. The coach, I want to play SOT 3. The coach is saying that he was not warned previously or the day before in the track meet for showboating during the 300-meter hurdles. Here's the coach.
I do want to get out there that he was not warned. I know that's the message that people want to say, well, if he was warned before, why did he do something again? He was never warned. He was never given a personal message to say, don't do this again, we're watching you. Never.
I want to be clear. I think the guy's being clever here. He was never given a personal message, is what the guy is saying. And so perhaps what the guy is saying is like, they came over and told me that he was warned, or they told another track coach, or they told that he was warned, but we never personally told, he was never personally warned. I think he's playing games there with the language, but who knows? And then Nyan Brown yesterday, I want to read this entire letter. We got a graphic for this. Nyan Brown puts together a statement yesterday on May 16th at the NCHSAA 8A state championship. I ran the final 300-meter hurdles race of my high school career and broke the long-standing state record in 2007 by Spencer Adams. The previous record was blah, blah, blah. I ran a blah, blah, blah. Right before settling into the blocks, I remember thinking to myself, dang, I can't believe I got it. I can't believe I did it. I truly believed I was about to break the state record. When I crossed the line, my celebration was loud and emotional. I celebrated with my teammates and dapped up my opponent because it was one of the proudest moments of my life on the track. That moment later went viral, along with footage of me raising my hand as the anchor of the 4x400 relay. That relay mattered deeply to me because a win would have secured our team's 5th consecutive state championship. I wanted that for my teammates more than anything. They worked incredibly hard for every point this season, and we had seniors on this team who had never experienced winning a state championship. To my teammates, y'all are my brothers, and I could not be more grateful to compete alongside you. I also want to thank my coaches, competitors, and everyone who has supported me throughout my career. Anyone who has competed against me or over the last 9 years knows that I have always competed with respect for the sport and respect for my opponents. I would never intentionally taunt another athlete. While I am disappointed in the final decision, I believe this moment creates an opportunity for a larger conversation within track and field about allowing young athletes to celebrate major accomplishments. Celebration is part of sports, especially at championship events. Throughout the week, athletes across classifications celebrated their victories in many different ways, many of which are publicly available online. I'm happy for those athletes, and I believe they should be able to celebrate those moments. I will continue learning from this experience, and I hope conversations like this help create clearer expectations for how young athletes can express joy in meaningful moments. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this experience. I hope you will continue to support me next season as a member of the NC State track and field team. I got some thoughts, but I'm going to bring Steve and Shamika and Dre back in. Dre, I know I saw you tweet. You liked this letter. You thought this AI written letter was great.
Okay.
That's a question.
Yes, I do like the letter because ultimately, what is he going to do? I mean, this comes down to a he said thing as to was he warned, was he not warned? The rule is you get disqualified if there was a first warning. So how could they disqualify without the first warning? So somebody got warned, but ultimately, does it really matter? As it said at the end of the letter, he's going to go run at NC State. Everybody knows he won. It's not like the disqualification is based on something he did performance-wise. The numbers are still the numbers. He's probably going to be on scholarship to go run in college. Ultimately, this has no consequence beyond us discussing it for 24 to 48 hours. Then everybody moves on as we were.
I think his teammates were affected. I don't think he cared about his teammates. I don't think he's. It's good for him. The attention, I think winning state championships and him being the driving force, perhaps of them winning 3 or 4 of these state championships in his career, it kind of got old hat for him. And on the way out the door, he's going to do a branding exercise, and he's done one. He's made himself a name. Track and field has virtually no relevance, particularly at the high school level and even at the collegiate level. It's not like it was when I was a kid when this stuff was very relevant. He's made himself relevant. It's content over everything. This is a nice piece of content that he's published as this statement. I don't know if a meaningful conversation on how we celebrate is that important. because that is what's going on. I see pervasively in black culture. How do we celebrate the prom? How do we celebrate graduation ceremonies? How do I do something at a graduation ceremony, prom night, or when I'm crossing the finish line in a track event? How do I do something that brings additional attention to me? Maybe it started that discussion, and that's what we're having here. Shamika and I disagree on this. Shamika, I think you loved this AI written letter as well.
I did love the AI written letter, just as I saw people with their AI summaries trying to make it seem as if it was the actual rules from the National Federation of Track, and it just wasn't. I thought it was a good, classy letter, and I don't think he had to make it about himself. I think everybody else also made it about him. When I see conversations such as, oh, this is the culture, or black people don't know how to follow the rules, they're making it about him. My argument has always been the rules should be clear and not left up to interpretation, because it could be based on how the person is feeling at the time. We have confirmed that this was a female who made the call. Some people are saying it was a black female who made the call. And just being a female, I don't want to make this a gender thing, but we all know that it can depend on our moods. It can depend on our hormones, what we don't feel like dealing with that day. I think they need to make the rules black and white, clear, whatever that is. I think if they can't celebrate, then of course we're going into making sports feminine, but never mind that. Just make the rules clear. I think if there were texts that said no celebration, the outlets would be saying, hey, it was no celebrations. They wouldn't be able to appeal. The conversation would end there. That's what needs to take place.
Steve, go ahead and jump in here. Me and Shamika disagreed yesterday. It was very uncomfortable for me, and I really disagree with her today. But go ahead, Steve.
Well, to her point, the interpretation of what is excessive, okay, on the surface, what that young man did, who, by the way, I like the letter, and I'm not so cynical. I think he wrote it, and I believe NC State is getting a fine model young student athlete. Okay, stop that. Now, Shamika makes a great point. What is the interpretation? What exactly is excessive? I know you remember this, Jason. After the 1991 Cotton Bowl, when Miami went buck wild on Texas, we did every dirty dance. Okay, I thought Don Cornelius was our coach that game. It was beautiful. NCAA didn't feel that way, and they instituted a rule which was basically no celebrations, and they branded it the Miami rule. They did. You know what they did, though? They put together a compilation of like 20 plays, and they basically said that hip thrust, the pelvic thrusting, illegal. Shooting off six shooters, illegal. The running man, illegal. The Roger Rabbit, illegal. The fun bunch, any celebrate, illegal. By the way, 17 of the 20 plays, I know people that watched it, players, were all Miami Hurricanes. Kind of proud moment for our program. But they literally outlined you cannot do this, 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 and that. You could not do it, right? And later on, they actually outlined jumping or diving into the end zone when you don't have to. They actually added things on. So they were very specific about what is an excessive celebration. So again, to Shamika's point, whoever that was is the judge. To one judge, that may have been celebrating in a moment of euphoria, and to other people, that could have been excessive.
Shamika, I want to follow up on this point about I'm having a brain fart because I'm trying to do too much. One, I want to pull a clip from, I think we talked about this in real time. There was a female athlete, track athlete, that sprayed her shoes with fire. With a fire extinguisher. Her dad gave it to her. She won. Oh, yeah. I think this was out in California. Yeah. This was a year or two ago. Yeah. And this is when I'm talking about, like, give them an inch, they'll go a mile. This is what I'm talking about. is that the reason why North Carolina has these hard and fast rules is because the focus on celebrating from black kids and from black people has gone over the top. Everything is about how can I celebrate? How can I make this about me? How can I have some sort of viral video? If this young man had just crossed the finish line, Shamika, there would be no controversy at all. No one would know him. And so he did something to make himself popular. So it would go bigger. And there's so much focus on what can I do to go viral. And I honestly think this kid figured it out. If I can get disqualified, if I can turn this into some controversy, I can now play the victim, and there'll be this and he doesn't care. He cost his teammates a state championship. He should be apologizing for that rather than recounting how great he felt and I broke this state record. This AI-generated letter that allowed him to start it off by, I broke this record and so had it. He's just adding to the story. It's all, hey, look at me. Is it the worst thing I've ever seen from a young person? Absolutely not. Is he a bad kid? Probably not. But he did something foolish and stupid here. And the fact that you're telling me that a black woman potentially was the one that called BS, well, this is one of the greatest moments of the last 20 years, that a black woman actually stood her ground and applied some discipline to a young black boy rather than just allowing him to get away with it. And now, knowing that a black woman was potentially involved in this discipline, that's why the criticism is more muted. Because if this had been a white woman, trust me, the coach would be on TV talking about how racist it was rather than saying, hey, I didn't get a warning or he didn't get a warning. And this letter would read differently if it was a white woman or a white man that did this. It would be playing more of the victim card. Instead, he just put out something that puts more attention on what he did. Hey, I broke the 300-meter hurdle record. Hey, I'm going to NC State on a full scholarship. Hey, we won 5 straight state championships. It's a publicity stunt.
Yeah, I don't know if we can actually judge his intentions. And as a parent of 3 girls, I don't know if my 17-year-old athlete would be thinking in that fashion. I don't know how this young man was raised. I know my girls would not have been thinking that far into the future to say, let me figure out how I can have a viral moment. They would have been just out there running track. And when I think about sports, I don't think they necessarily have to change celebrations just because of black kids. We've seen so many type of kids do these small types of celebrations. And again, if they have to cut them out, then say no celebration. And I think it's silly. I think it's the feminization of sports. I was a cheerleader. I was also in the band. I continued to be in the marching band in college. I am used to seeing athletes celebrate when they do something good. It's a competition. There's going to be losers and there's going to be winners. In my opinion, trying to make safe spaces for kids so that their feelings aren't hurt when they lose is just a bad idea across the board. But yes, if they want to put guardrails, if they need parameters, then I have no issue with that. I just think that it needs to be clearly stated, opposed to leaving their interpretation up to somebody depending on how they feel that day.
Look, I'm old.
Yeah.
And I remember when athletes used to throw the football back to the referee, and it was rare. Billy White Shoes Johnsons would celebrate, but most NFL players wouldn't. Everything leads to dancing at this point. It's like everything I see from us and from black culture, it's dancing. It's like we can't control ourselves. In television commercials during the whole BLM deal, for about 5 years, if you saw a black person in a television commercial, they were going to break into dance. If you see them on the football field, they're going to break into dance. If you see them on the basketball, they'll dance. It's like Donnie Simpson is running sports now. And to me, the whole thing is feminine. The whole dancing thing. Dre, am I just an old fuddy-duddy here or what?
Yeah, you're just an old fuddy-duddy. So I'm going to go Team Shamika today because Shamika
well, I already
was
know
right
this.
in that.
Let me squeal on Dre. Dre got on the call yesterday. Was, hey, Shamika, how you doing? And I was like, wow, this man is actually talking to Shamika. Anyway, I'm sorry. That's an inside joke.
So-
Dre, go ahead and finish.
So the thing is, the guy winning the meet, and I talked about this yesterday when we brought up the NBA after the Mount and the Palace when they started getting real quick with the technical fouls.
Yeah.
You cannot legislate emotion out of a sport. He just won the championship at a state meet. He can celebrate. You can give him a chance to celebrate. I will give you credit, Jason, that you're saying if you give them an inch, they take a mile. You're right about that, because then if you say, okay, do whatever you want, eventually it's going to get out of hand. He's just the start of it. 5 years from now, it's going to be crazy. They're going to be calling their cousins out of the stands, and they're going to do a whole coordinated thing. So there's a space in between. I think the answer would be, and this is work for the administrators, is what Steve said. When they go, you got to go make a whole list. All right, you can't do this, 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 this. They have to actually lay it out, itemize it. That would satisfy what Shamika is saying, because right now it's a judgment call, which means it's up to however that official is feeling that day, which is not fair to the athletes, is not fair to the teams, because, well, how do we know how you're going to interpret this? If you lay it out all in detail, tell the kids what they can and what they cannot do. Yeah. And more importantly, like we were talking about with the graduations a few days ago, you just need to set a culture and a tone of what are we doing and what are we not doing here, to go to the athletes and say, okay, listen, you can celebrate, but in a reasonable way. Don't do anything silly. Don't do anything extra. Don't bring props. Let's have a culture here. What this really needs to be is a culture. That's really what we're talking about here. If you establish a culture of this is okay and this is not, to where I don't have to make it specific. I don't have to be explicit and lay out rules for what you can't do, because then I'm policing you. I don't want to have to police you all. This is me as the administrator talking to the athletes and to the coaches. If we can get back to that, then we won't even have this problem and we wouldn't even be having this discussion.
I think, and go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
As a fellow old fuddy-duddy who's proud of being a fuddy-duddy. So, Jason, I want to push back a little. So you're saying that this kid had this elaborate plan. Let me win the race. Let me then taunt. Let me then get disqualified. Then I'm going to write a letter, and then I'm going to martyr myself, and I'm going to be a bigger brand. I find that a little bit far-fetched, to be honest with you.
Hold for one second. Let me push back a tiny bit. He knew going in he was going to win the race. He's light years ahead of these other kids. Did you see how big of an advantage he won by? He knew that going in. He can read the times, blah, blah, blah. And so did he say to himself, I'm going to do something when I win? He thought that through. What celebration am I going to do? I know they don't want me to do any celebration. I'm going to push the envelope. And if I get disqualified, I'm good with it. I think he said that much. That was his advanced thinking. If I get disqualified, it's going to make them look bad and it's going to be controversial. Well, yes, I do think he thought that much in advance.
If that is true, which I don't, he might be the most selfish teammate in the history of sports. And the other thing is, so I did not know that the female official was a black woman. And that does change the conversation and how people react to it.
My queen, yes.
Mike, okay, well, does that make her the C. Dolores Tucker of track? I'm just wondering about that. She tried to warn us a long time ago about a certain genre of music. But, Jason, do you remember in the early 80s, they actually banned the National Football League celebrating. They call it the No Fun League.
Yes.
And it was really because of Mark Gastineau, because a fight broke out between him and the Rams, bench-clearing brawl. And there was about a 4 or 5 year stretch. They did ban celebrations. And now, I'll admit, Jason, as an old fuddy-duddy, when every single play is celebrated, it's just like to a point where I'm like, God, can we just quit it and just play ball? I never thought I'd get to that point, but here we are.
And that's my entire point. The North Carolina track people may be wrong here. I'm willing to admit that. They may be wrong. But I get how they got here. I want to play you this clip from California. This is a year or two ago. Let's play this news story.
High school track athlete from the Central Coast is speaking out after she was stripped of her gold medal because of her victory celebration after the race. KTV's Alex Savage joining us here in studio. The young runner, Alex, says that she was just crushed by what happened.
Yeah, it was no ordinary race for 16-year-old Clara Adams, a star runner at North Salinas High School. And when she won the gold in the 400 meters at the state championships back on Sunday, she got a high five from her dad, who is also her coach. And then she grabbed a small fire extinguisher. And the YouTube video of her race and the aftermath has now gone viral. After setting a mark of 53 seconds for her run, you see Adams running over to her father and then using that extinguisher to spray her hot spikes. That gesture was a tribute to Olympic champion Maurice, who celebrated a win the same way over 20 years ago. She said she was careful to step off of the track and onto the grass before using the extinguisher. Despite that, officials ruled this unsportsmanlike conduct, disqualified her, and stripped Adams of her state title. She said that she had never celebrated like that before, but she said there was a good reason.
Because my feet were on fire. I just ran 53 seconds in the 400 for the second time in my whole life career. So that was a big moment for me.
And the way that was done was so callous, so disrespectful.
We can stop. And this one, give them an inch. Everything is about, and this, like Dre's talking about a culture, and he's right. But we can't seem to get back to a culture of humility, of celebrating and giving credit to who's actually responsible for anything great that we do, Jesus Christ. Now it's all about, how can I celebrate myself? Everything is about celebrating myself. And that culture, some people are like, man, if you let that happen, it always gets out of hand. And it's going to be these choreographed things. And the next thing you know, you'll have kids with $100 bills in their hands or $1 bills and all that. And it's just going to be a big production like we've seen with prom, because everything in social media tells you, celebrate yourself and record it and make sure everybody else sees it. And so, again, I'm not really defending the North Carolina officials. I'm defending how they got here, because they know what this leads to. And no one can deny, because we all see the evidence every day over social media, what this mentality leads to. I'll give you guys a final thought. I'm running a little bit late here, so Shamika, you go first. Be quick, but don't hurry.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call that unsportsmanlike, but I do think it was excessive, the whole fire extinguisher thing. I just go back to the time when I was in school. We actually maybe were excessive. When the other team's cheerleaders came out to the floor, we would hold up newspapers, and ignore them. We would maybe go to sleep on the bleachers. We would also, when their team went to the line, say a cheer, hey, you at the line, you think you mighty fine, but you not. So miss that shot. Now they can't even do that. So I would say there's taunting, but I just don't think that particular instance with the young man running track was taunting.
Dre, Steve?
I think that I understand both of your arguments. Both of you are making solid arguments that there is a space that you want to allow people to express themselves, but at the same time, it gets out of hand if you allow it openly. And I think the officials don't want to do the work of going line by line and having to police every single behavior. So instead, they said, let's just draw this clear line right here, and we're not allowing anything. And I think the kids just need to adjust to that. I mean, these are kids. They're not, most of them are not getting paid. They need to adjust to it and just learn how to control themselves. I don't think that's some terrible thing that you're putting on them.
I'm sorry. They need to draw the clear line, though. That is my argument. There is no clear line.
Fair enough.
Steve, you got a final thought?
Yeah, that young lady, she made a point to say, hey, I went off the playing field or the ground, right?
Yeah.
I think it was excessive, but I appreciate the showmanship. I can't lie, but it kind of reminded me, Jason, remember the Icky shuffle? Remember what the NFL told Icky? They said, you can't do that Icky shuffle anymore unless you're out of bounds. So he would score a touchdown and he'd go to the sideline and he would do it in front of the bench, and it went nuts. But there was a rule that basically said, if you're going to do this celebration, you have to be out of the playing field. and he did comply. Now, some people are going to say, hey, you still shouldn't have done it. But within that rule, he did follow it. I'm not so sure that girl should have been completely stripped of her gold medal or that first place finish. That's my view of it.
All right. I got to talk some Caitlin Clark and some WNBA, so I'm going to let you guys go. You frustrated me enough. I'm right, they're wrong. When we come back, Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings, they're a bit of a problem for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. I'll explain. Caitlin Clark's number one rival and enemy, Angel Reese, is ascending as Caitlin Clark starts to fall apart and her star is diminished. Angel Reese, Bayou Barbie, Chicago Barbie, now Atlanta Barbie, is ascending. The Atlanta Dream are 2-0 this season. They start the season knocking off the Minnesota Lynx, probably the best team in the WNBA. They follow it up by beating the Dallas Wings. The Wings, the team that beat the Fever on opening day, scored 104 points against the Fever. Well, they can't score 75 against the Atlanta Dream and Angel Reese. And yes, there are plenty of highlights of Angel Reese throwing up bricks in her first two games. She is unskilled offensively, but Angel Reese can rebound and she helps on defense, and you cannot discredit her role in the Atlanta Dream's hot start. You have to remember, last year, the Atlanta Dream, second best record, tied for the second best record in the WNBA. They add Angel Reese this offseason to Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard, and now they're off to a 2-0 start. Right now, they look like the best.
As the WNBA turns, starring Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Asia Wilson. Brought to you by George Soros, Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, and the Global Elite.
All right, welcome back. Maurice from Keep the Vision, John the Liquidator joining me for this as the WNBA turns. Wow, and the WNBA does keep turning and turning and turning, and we get new narratives as we get new information. And last night, we got some new information. Paige Bueckers, the Dallas Wings, and Paige Bueckers' girlfriend, AZ Fudd, completely destroyed the Washington Mystics last night. Put a clown suit on them. Held the Washington Mystics, I believe, to 69 points. Paige Bueckers' defense was incredible on Sonia Citron, who lit up the Indiana Fever. I watched this game last night, and I was like, okay, AZ Fudd makes sense. She's been coming off the bench. I think that ended last night. She was incredible on the defensive end. AZ Fudd was. I think hit 6 of 9 from the field, was really good on the offensive end. Paige Bueckers, I could say the exact same thing about. Incredible on both ends of the court. Paige Bueckers actually set the tone last night defensively. She was guarding Sonia Citron and shut her down and put the clamps on her when she wasn't guarding Sonia. AZ Fudd was. The Dallas Wings made a lot of sense to me last night, and I was watching that and going, what a dramatic difference between their organization and how they built around Paige Bueckers and built a team that I'm not sure if they're championship ready yet. They probably still need a big, but man, that team is built for long-term success with Fudd and Paige Bueckers, kind of like, and again, I'm not comparing them to this, but in terms of playing both ends of the courts, it looked like a version of, and again, don't overreact, but like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. That's what it looked like, the female version of that. And not that either one of them is Michael Jordan, not that either one of them is Scottie Pippen, but in terms of being effective offensively on both ends of the court and setting the tone with like, man, you're going to have a hard time getting the ball up court. We're going to turn you over. We're going to be very hard for you to score on us. And when we get to the other end of the court, we're knockdown shooters. We can get the shots we want. We got enough players around us that can knock down shots. The Dallas Wings look very impressive, and in quite a contrast to the Indiana Fever that have not built a team around Caitlin Clark that makes sense. Maurice, John, welcome back to the show. Did you watch the game last night, and do you have similar concerns?
I definitely watched the game last night, and it wasn't like a hate watch, but it was definitely difficult to watch at times. The way the Dallas Wings was able to control the inside-outside element of this game, and for them to just hold them to 69 points, that really exposed the Indiana Fever woes. There is no secret that the Indiana Fever is struggling at defense. I mean, they have a defensive problem that need to be fixed yesterday. Breon January is not the answer. Stephanie White is not the answer. And more importantly, the front office did everything in their power to not fix the problems from preseason. They had one objective to do with that developmental contract, and that is sign another big. They don't have a true five. Aaliyah Boston is now dealing with injuries. They move her to point forward. They got her all over the place. They don't know what they want to do. As of right now, Jason, to your point, the Dallas Wings look like they could be a better team.
Maurice, your thoughts?
I think this is a clear-cut photo shot of an organization that has leaned in versus an organization that has leaned out. The Dallas Wings have leaned in to Paige Bueckers so much so. Yes, AZ Fudd had a good game, but there's nothing you're going to see from AZ Fudd that's going to make you believe she's a better player than what you're going to see with Olivia Miles and the Minnesota Lynx. It's just they're on two different levels of talent. But the buy-in to have the wherewithal to say, hey, we're so bought into Paige, we're going to do whatever it takes, even if it means we pass up on a player that's clearly better to go and get her girlfriend. Damn it, we'll do it because we're all in. The Indiana Fever, do the complete opposite. They refused to give Kate Martin a developmental deal, and we said, okay, maybe it was going to be for a big. No, they went and got Bree Hall, a guard who's injured. Maybe you could bring in Hannah Stokey. We just want to see you do something for Caitlin Clark. Bring in one of her buddies from Iowa. Do something. Show us that you are willing to lean in. And they have done the complete opposite. They've leaned out. They don't even promote Caitlin Clark on game day flyers. They're putting Raven Johnson on the flyer. She averages 1 point a game. They have leaned out while the Wings have leaned in. The Wings leaned in so much. Head coach Jose Fernandez isn't playing games. He said, Enrique, this is Paige's team. You're going to start passing the ball. We finally got Kelsey Mitchell to get her first assist after 2 or 3 games. It's just a complete opposite moves in direction when it comes to the franchises. And the Dallas Wings have gone all in on Paige Bueckers, while the Indiana Fever have leaned out of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, I think this clear as day that you mentioned Bree Hall, you mentioned Raven Johnson. I watched the video last night. Did y'all know that, and I didn't, and I thought I knew everything, but like when Stephanie White first entered into the WNBA, I think she joined there was a Charlotte team, and Don Staley was on that team. Did y'all know that?
No.
I just saw that last night. That coming into the league, Stephanie White joined a team that Don Staley came out of the ABL and joined the Charlotte team. And so when Stephanie White was a rookie, that's her first connection to Don Staley. And that connection has not disappeared. Stephanie White is just a different version of Don Staley, and that's their connection. Why are all these South Carolina players ending up on the Indiana Fever? Now we know why. That there's a connection, a long connection. It spans back nearly 2 decades between Don Staley and Stephanie White. And so the cleanup project that's necessary in Indiana starts at the highest levels. The ownership is going to have to ignore, like, we have a once-in-a-lifetime star. We can't listen to these group of women that are trying to convince us, yeah, Caitlin Clark's a college thing. It's not what you can win with in the WNBA. Well, the Simons or somebody in that organization is going to say, I would rather, as a businessman, go down like, hey, maybe we won't win, but Caitlin Clark's going to keep our arena filled. We're always going to be on national TV. She's box office. She's good for business. I clearly think you can win with her, but you have to go all in on who she is and what she does. And so last night I'm watching the game, and I'm being real with myself and say, she's never going to be the two-way player that Paige Bueckers is. I mean, Paige Bueckers last night saddled up and said, no, I'm going to shut down Sonia Citrone, and she did that. Caitlin Clark's incapable of doing that. That's never going to happen. But Caitlin Clark can be such an offensive force that if you embrace a different style, like we're going to outscore people and we're going to play enough defense and be enough of a problem, but we're going to score so many points, and you'd have this great contrast in styles. Fans will love what the Fever are doing, and if you execute it properly and put the right people around Caitlin Clark, you will play enough defense and you'll have the right team around her that she can knock off Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings and some of these other teams that may be better defensively, but they're just unwilling to do that. And so I'm looking at something with Paige Bueckers that, like, this conversation between Paige Bueckers and Caitlin Clark might get interesting over the course of this season and into next season. John?
I definitely feel like the conversation between the two is going to grow. The more we see Paige kind of get her feet up under her playing on the next level in the WNBA. But what's more important about all of this is Caitlin Clark needs Phil Jackson. Caitlin Clark don't have a Phil Jackson of a coach. Lisa Bluter was her Phil Jackson. Stephanie White is Doc Rivers. She cannot win with Stephanie White. Stephanie White is prone team to team, go halfway there, can't get the job done. We need Phil Jackson. Kobe, great with Phil Jackson. Jordan, great, Phil Jackson. Great players have great coaches. Caitlin Clark need a great coach and a great system to make sure they can get her to the next level, to make sure when they send out flyers to the WNBA, you put your superstars on there. Like Caitlin Clark should have been on that flyer. You don't sit here and put Raven Johnson on there. She's coming off the bench, for God's sake. No disrespect to her. I love her defensive effort. But if we're talking about stars, moving the team, filling up arena seats, you have to put Caitlin Clark on that flyer and every flyer that represents the Indiana Fever. This is her basketball team. And to KTV saying that Kelsey Mitchell went 2 games without getting assists, it's clear as day. She don't want to pass the ball to Caitlin Clark. She want to be a scoring machine. Why is that? Who's telling her to do these things? It is Doc Rivers, a.k.a. Stephanie White, that is implementing the system, just like we said last time. And, Jason, I went and did some homework with the old LGBTQ community over there. Could that be a reason why?
Well, you mentioned a.k.a. Doc Rivers, and again, I said a lot, and you probably forgot, but I'm telling you, Don Staley's involved in what's going on in the direction of the Indiana Fever. You can see it in their player moves. You can see it in their style of play. You can see it in why they want to pretend like Kelsey Mitchell's on the same level, or if not a higher level, than Caitlin Clark. Maurice?
I don't believe that Paige Bueckers is crawling closer to Caitlin Clark at all. I think there is a lot of people with agendas there's a lot of people who hate Caitlin Clark, it's a lot of Angel Reese fans who realize she never stood a chance in terms of talent. So they clinged on to the next thing, and that's Paige Bueckers. But I don't believe that that Paige Bueckers is really drawing closer to Caitlin Clark. I mean, Caitlin Clark with complete sabotage and malpractice around her, is averaging 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 9 assists. She averages more points, rebounds, assists, and steals than Paige Bueckers. And Paige Bueckers is playing in a small arena and still can't sell it out. Okay, so I don't believe Paige is drawing close to her, and Paige does not face the scrutiny. Paige had an absolute stinker and an embarrassment. She wet the bed in the fourth quarter of the game before that. Nobody will ever talk about it. You know why? Because people don't really care unless she's standing across from Caitlin Clark, just like a lot of these people. Nobody talked about Paige Bueckers' fourth quarter meltdown a couple days ago. They don't care. They just want to see her.
Let me just say this in fairness. Let me say this in fairness, and feel free to push back, though. But I just watched Paige Bueckers undress Sonia Citron. I mean, if you watched that game last night, she on the defensive end of the court, she undressed this woman who's, I think, is a terrific player. And that counts too. She's never going to be the offensive player that Caitlin Clark is, but Caitlin Clark's never going to be the defensive player that Paige Bueckers is.
But she never faces the scrutiny, Jason. You didn't speak about her fourth quarter meltdown a couple days ago. No. Nobody did. And that's the difference.
No one's going to talk about her defensive performance last night, other than me, perhaps, because she's not that. She also isn't going to receive as much. Well,
she's a good player, but she's not exciting.
I agree, but what's I'm not saying she'll never be the box office that Caitlin Clark is. She's never be the person that's going to drive ticket sales. She's never going to be the offensive player, but she may end up winning a title before Caitlin Clark, and there'll be a bunch of reasons why. There will be a bunch of reasons why, but part of that reason will be like, hey, she's a hell of a two-way player.
No. Me personally, I don't believe Paige is nowhere near championship level contentions yet. She's not there and her team's not there, first and foremost. Now, to your point, Jason, yes, she's better at defensive attributes at times than Caitlin Clark because she's put in different situations on defense that Caitlin would never be in. So do that call for her to be a better defensive player at that time? Yes. But do Caitlin slouch on defense? Did you not see her do the handshake to one of the stud buds? So we can't sit up here and treat Caitlin like she just hot garbage on defense. That is not the case. Caitlin Clark's system is not designed for her to play as much defense that garners Paige to play. Now, when we talk about Paige defensively and as a two-way player, she's a standout star on both ends of the court. But we cannot sit up here and disrespect Caitlin Clark's defensive mindset and defensive skills to dissect these players offensively and defensively to say that she's trash, Jason. We just ain't finna do that.
I'm not calling her trash. I'm just saying. I saw something last night, and we'll see if they can sustain it. I do think AZ Fudd's going to be in the starting lineup moving forward. Odyssey Sims has exposed, she's old and can't knock down shots consistently. I do think AZ Fudd's going to be in the starting lineup. And I love the pieces that from the Shepherd to the Maddie Siegrist that they got around, that they have around Paige Bueckers. It all fits and works. Do they probably need a big? Probably, before they're really championship contenders. But I looked at that last night and I was like, oh, this victory that they pulled off over the Fever, that's not a fluke. Right now, they're better, particularly on the defensive end. And if AZ Fudd is going to knock down open twos and or threes, I'm concerned.
Jason, they're not just better on the defensive end. As you started the segment with the top down, they're better at the head coaching position. They have a better front office at this point. The Dallas Wings were the worst team in the league. And with 80% of the league being free agents, they absolutely turned over the roster, and they turned it over while turning it over, they built it around Paige Bueckers. And with 80% of the league being free agents for the Indiana Fever, we've seen that they have shown nothing but malpractice, and they have no idea what they're doing. This isn't just a Stephanie White thing. She needs to be fired, obviously. Brand January, oh, how dare you be going back and forth with Caitlin Clark on the bench? You can pack it. Whoever came with Stephanie White, you can go. I know a lot of guys say, oh, the Kelly, the guy Kelly, he's a good guy. He came with Stephanie White. Sorry, guilt by association. Pack it up. You can go. Amber Cox, you can go. Kelly Crosskopf, you can go. The Dallas Wings aren't just better on the defensive side of the ball. They're better in the front office and at head coach.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you look at how they build it around Paige Bueckers, we ultimately expected the Indiana Fever front office to do that, especially this year. Caitlin Clark only played 13 games last year. Y'all had more than enough time to look at who was going to become available, had the whole CBA break to sit there and dissect free agents. And you want to know what they did? They brought in Bree Hall, and they brought in even more guards. Where is accountability from the Indiana Fever front office? Because I see a whole lot of finger pointing at Caitlin Clark. When Caitlin Clark was going through her shooting slumps last week, everybody was pointing fingers at her. No one pointing fingers at the front office. The reason why Caitlin Clark was in this position, the reason why they gave up 36 defensive rebounds against the Washington Mystics. Why is they struggling defensively on rebounding the ball? Let's have the Indiana Fever take accountability for their actions. And we started to see footage coming out of Caitlin Clark standing up for herself. We seen Caitlin Clark having exchange with Breon January. We see Caitlin Clark snatch her hand out of Stephanie White arms. Don't touch me. Get around me. We're seeing something that is going to boil over and make national news if the Indiana Fever front office do not step in and address Caitlin Clark wants and needs. And I'm telling you right now, it looked like from the outside looking in, she want a new coaching staff.
I'm going to throw out some. We'll wrap it up here. I've got this fantasy trade scenario. And I know I'm probably asking the wrong two guys because y'all so all in on Caitlin Clark. But here's I was sitting there thinking, like, okay, what trade could they do that would make sense? And this seemed, it's probably crazy, but I was like, trade Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell to the Washington Mystics for Sonia Citron and the Lauren Betts. Is that crazy? Betts is the center from UCLA. Sonia Citron is the guard/forward for the Washington Mystics that until last night was averaging about 24 points. I think she only scored like 7-8 points last night. But is that a crazy idea to Mitchell? Because again, if they don't trade Mitchell this year, Mitchell's going to walk and they're going to get nothing for her. They got to trade her this season or she'll walk next year in free agency and they get nothing. And I know Aaliyah Boston's hurt, and I know Aaliyah Boston with Caitlin Clark can be effective, particularly in the pick and roll action that they're not using. But in order to get someone like Citron, you're going to have to give up something great and young because Kelsey Mitchell, I think, is in her 9th year, whereas Aaliyah is probably, I think, in her 4th year. So you're going to have to give up something great and young to get someone like Sonia Citron. And I think that Lauren Betts could be the low post player. I think she's a decent, would give Indiana some size that they need. Is that a crazy trade, Maurice?
Yeah. You lost your mind, Jason. Now listen, there's nothing you could give the Washington Mystics to give up Sonia Citron at this point. And look, I'm fine with Aaliyah Boston, but I am 100% in. And I didn't want to sign Kelsey Mitchell back for $1.4 million. I felt like you could have spent that $1.4 million on a quality 2 to 3 role players to help fill out the roster around Caitlin Clark. I'm open to calling up the LA Sparks. Cameron Brink was the number 2 pick in the draft, and she's stuck on the bench behind De'Erica Hamby and Nneka Ogwumike. Are you guys interested in Kelsey Mitchell and sending me Cameron Brink? She's just sitting on your bench. I'm all ears for that.
So hold for one second, John. When you say that I'm crazy, you're saying that no way Washington would give up Sonia Citron. Is that your point?
Yeah, they wouldn't give up Sonia Citron and the Indiana Fever. They wouldn't give up Aaliyah Boston. They just wouldn't do it.
No.
Gotcha. Go ahead, John.
But the Cameron Brink trade, to KTV point, That is box office. See, that'll help fill some more seats that people been boycotting. Now, for
how do you put
Aaliyah Boston?
You talking about Aaliyah Boston and Cameron Brink on the same team?
Yeah, because Cameron Brink is like she's a stretch four. She shoot the three. She runs like a horse. Like she's the perfect power forward for Caitlin Clark because she doesn't clog the paint, and Aaliyah Boston would have plenty of room down there to operate. But then again, it probably wouldn't work because Stephanie White wants Aaliyah Boston to play point guard. So who knows?
John, you got a final thought?
I think the Indiana Fever definitely need to fix this coaching disaster before it get worse, because that Seattle game was a Band-Aid, and they got another game coming up. And guess what happened to Band-Aids when they keep getting wet? It don't stick anymore, and the bandage is going to come off again. And Jason, we're going to be on here again having this conversation with you making these absurd trades because the Band-Aid came off.
John, why don't you like my trade?
Because there's no way that they're going to give Aaliyah Boston is the highest paid player in the WNBA. She makes more money than everybody. They're not giving away Aaliyah Boston. Never in a million. I think they will trade Caitlin Clark before they trade Aaliyah Boston.
Hold for 1 second. Who would you rather have, Sonia Citron or Aaliyah Boston?
Aaliyah Boston.
Aaliyah Boston.
Really?
Yeah. Aaliyah Boston used proper. Okay, I would like the center Aaliyah Boston, not the point forward center, point hub Aaliyah Boston. That Stephanie White, that thing she has going on. Okay, the Caitlin Clark Aaliyah Boston pick and roll was the most unstoppable thing in the league, and for whatever reason, Stephanie White wants nothing to do with it. So,
like, do we not remember what Aaliyah Boston did to A'ja Wilson during the playoffs last year? Like, they put her, like, the ref damn near had to help them. Get her out of the game. The face of the league, there's nothing she could do. Aaliyah Boston was just dominating A'ja Wilson doing that. There's no way that they're giving away Aaliyah Boston, Jason. There's just no way.
I got it. I guess I'm a little higher on Sonia Citron than you guys are. And look, and after last night or what Bueckers did to her, but Sonia Citron is also a two-way player, plays on the defensive end. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you for putting me in my place and giving me some pushback. Great job as always. I'll be on the Harmony channel here in about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. Just me solo. There's a couple things I want to get off my chest. That's it, and that's all from us here on Fearless. Give me 3 minutes. I'll be on the Harmony channel. Next.